Hey everybody, it's BenInBeta, and today is the next video in the DIY Detailing for Complete Beginners series. In the past, I've done a what products you need to get started in detailing video, as well as 2 videos on detailing with a pressure washer and maybe doing some upgrades to that pressure washer, which might make that experience a little bit better. We'll be continuing that series as well. But I've also promised to talk about how to do rinseless washing, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So we have a setup here for rinseless. Now, generally speaking, rinseless means rinse less. It doesn't mean never rinse. But in this case, my truck just has a lot of water spots and stuff from a recent rainstorm. It's not overly dirty, but there is some dirt on it. It's not bad at all. The wheels are pretty good. You can see a little bit of dirt here, right? So not too bad. Down here, a little bit dirtier. So my truck's not super dirty, which means I probably don't need to rinse today, which probably means I don't need to rinse today, which is cool. So I'm gonna actually apply the product, wash the vehicle, and then dry it and be done. So this is one of the quickest ways to wash your vehicle, but it should only be done if you really don't need to rinse your vehicle. It's not very dirty, like my truck is today. If there was a ton of salt on here, or I had just gone off-roading, or it's really dusty, that kind of thing, or it's been weeks since I washed it, I'd probably wanna rinse first. And I'm gonna show you how you can do that in the future with rinseless without having to use a hose. Now, hose is one way you can definitely rinse. If you have a hose, that's great. And I'm trying to pretend like this is an apartment today. Yes, it's a garage, but I wanna show you that you can wash your vehicle with relatively few things and be able to do it in a very confined space. In a parking garage, you might only have this much space between you and the car next to you. So the other purpose of this video was to show that you could wash in confined spaces without necessarily getting everything all wet. You're gonna see when we're done, there's gonna be very little, if any, water on the floor when we're done. I'm also trying to keep this as inexpensive as possible while still using good products. And that is something I have learned recently. Trying to find really great deals on Amazon isn't always the best option, not only for me, but for you. I'll have a future video on how to choose products on Amazon or anywhere, just to make sure you get something decent for your money, but that's a separate video. Today, these are the things that we're gonna be using, and some of these are choices, by the way. We're not using all of this, we're just gonna use some of it, but there are some things you need to have for the rinseless. So you have to have a bucket, and a grit guard is a good idea. So I'll have some of those linked in the description for sure, but you're gonna need those 2 things because we need to have water. And we're gonna talk about why having a bucket that has some markings on the side to tell you how much water is in there can be kind of helpful for rinseless in a minute. We're using chemicals, so we're still gonna have rubber gloves. You definitely wanna have some of those. Now, I have all clean on here because you would probably wanna wash your tires. I'm gonna skip the tires today in this. I'm just gonna focus on washing the truck. I could wash my tires and rims with rinseless if I wanted to, but they're really not that dirty, and I'm actually gonna get the truck pretty dirty tomorrow, so I'm not gonna worry about that today. I've already shown how to wash your wheels and tires in a couple of different videos, including the first pressure washer video, and it's the same technique there as you would do here. So I'm not gonna go over that again today, just to save a little bit of time there. So I would recommend going and checking that video out, or some of my other videos to see how that works. But I will be doing a tires and wheels for beginners video coming up shortly, where I show you a couple different options for how you might do that. So if you are gonna do wheels and tires, you want an all-purpose cleaner. All Clean's a great one for that. Again, check out the other video if you wanna see how that works. So today I'm gonna be using products almost exclusively from the House of Rags. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that I'm trying to keep things in a decent budget. 2, the House of Rags has pretty much everything you need to get started with rinseless and to do it well, and they offer really good quality products. And I'm gonna be featuring their own brand today, which is the Detail Co. products. Now, I've never used the Nemesis rinseless wash before. This is the first time we're gonna use it, but I trust this brand and I've used it before, so I expect the results to be pretty good. And all I should need to do is follow the instructions that are on the bottle. Not a problem there. So this is new for me, but this bottle is only $10. It's one of the least expensive rinseless washes on the market, which makes it real economical to give it a try and see how it goes. So we're gonna give this a try today for the first time. So before we go any further, I just wanna let you know that I do have all these products linked below, so you don't have to worry about going and finding them. Just sit back, enjoy the show, as Pan likes to say. Sorry for stealing your line there, Pan. And if you use code BenInBeta at checkout, you will save 10% on your order. Why would you not wanna do that? So it makes all this stuff even less expensive. So that makes this wash only $9, not bad at all. This is another item you can get at the House of Rags. This is the IK Multi-Pro 2 360 sprayer. This is a great rinseless sprayer. You do not want the foamer for this one, you want the sprayer. And you can use other sprayers or a regular spray bottle if you want for Rinseless, that's fine. This just makes the job a lot easier. These are about $42. And again, you can use a different sprayer if you want, but these are really good quality. One of the things I like about this sprayer specifically, you're gonna get a really nice injector hose. It's super flexible with a weight at the end that's gonna get all of the liquids out of there, which you might not get from some other cheaper brands. So it's pretty nice. And then sticking with the Detail Co theme, we're gonna use the Nemesis sponge today. You could use the DIY Detail sponge. There's lots of other ones on the market too, but the nice things about these is you have these perforations in here that help kind of trap some of the dirt and whatnot, and then they also release that dirt when you dunk it into your wash bucket, which is great. This one's a little bit smaller, I think, than the DIY Detail one, but I like this one. It's worked really well for me as well, so we're gonna use this today. Now, if you don't really like sponges, I think sponges are the best for Rinseless in my opinion. I would use those first and see what you think of them. But if you don't like the sponges, you can use kind of whatever wash media. This is an auto fiber Rinseless sort of mitt, if you want to look at it that way, and you can pretty easily use all four sides of this, which is really nice. So you can pick some of those up too. I'll link those below. I've tried these, they're nice. They're super ultra soft. So they're not gonna scratch your paint. That's the big thing here, is you don't wanna be scratching paint. So these are really nice, and you won't scratch the paint with a sponge either. All right, so now we have the ability to apply product on it. We have the ability to wash the product between the bucket and the sponge. The last step in Rinseless is gonna be drying. Now the other cool part about Rinseless is when you go to dry, you don't need a drying aid in addition to the Rinseless wash like you do with a traditional wash with a pressure washer, because you're not washing away all of your lubrication. It's already lubricated up. So you're just gonna use the towel and dry the vehicle and you're done. It's another reason why Rinseless goes much quicker, and a lot of people prefer to do Rinseless over a traditional wash. I still like the traditional wash too, but I do Rinseless sometimes because it's quicker, easier, and you still get great results with it. So in the first videos that I did, I was using the DIY Detail drying blanket. That is a great drying towel blanket. It's real massive, has a lot of good weight to it, and I have a whole video on towels. I will do another towels for beginners video in the future. It is a great towel. I'll have that link below too. But today I thought I'd try something different. So I picked up a couple of different drying towels, blankets from the House of Rags. I have some other microfibers from the House of Rags. I love them a lot, so I was excited to try these now that they're kind of back in stock. So I have the goat here. This would probably do the entire truck by itself. So that's an option. It's very big though. So one option there. Let's just take a look at what that looks like here. First time I'm taking it out. So this thing is super big. And not everybody wants to drive with a blanket that's this large, but this is supposed to be able to hold 2 gallons of water. So again, you can probably do the whole thing, but it is nice and pliable, but it's still gonna be a soft towel. It's still gonna be nice and heavy, so this would work really well. All right, so if the goat is a little bit too big and heavy for you, they also have the Diva drying blanket. This one's actually bigger in terms of size, but it isn't quite as heavy. And this one's got their microfiber edges, so you're not gonna scratch anything. Also a great drying blanket, another great option. Nice big towel, probably will do your whole vehicle for Rinseless as well. And then lastly, if you think both of those are too big, they actually have their Diva Rinseless towels. This one's a 3-pack, these are smaller. And I do like the smaller towels for glass and the front fascia of the truck and the trim. These are nice to get into different areas there, and they're often nice for these vertical surfaces. That's just kind of my opinion there. Also ultra soft and plush, and 3 of them would definitely do your vehicle without a problem. And you can also use these in combination. So you could have one of these, start out with this, do the big parts like the hood, the top of the vehicle, especially for SUVs and cars. These are gonna get most of your vehicle just by doing the top of the vehicle, which is awesome. And then some of these can help for around the edges. So all these towels, again, are available at the House of Rags. They have many others too if you're interested in that. Code BenInBeta saves you 10% if you want to do that. So we're going to give those a try today too. And I just want to remind you again, I'm using these products for the first time on my vehicle in this video because I do really trust this brand and I know they're going to be good. All right, so let's get everything set up and get the truck washed. All right, here we are inside, and we're going to be putting in our water for the Rinseless. Rinseless is different than a traditional soap, and this is one of the things I've learned over the last year. Rinseless is fairly new to me. I've only been doing it for maybe like 9 months or something like that, maybe not even that long. But I learned my lesson early on not to use too much Rinseless. It's just a waste of product and doesn't make it work any better. So When they say 256 to 1, they really do mean that. And before I mentioned that it can be nice to have these buckets that tell you how much you have. So at 256 to 1, every 2 gallons of water you have is 1 ounce of product. So we're gonna use about 4 gallons of water, and we're gonna go ahead and do 2 ounces of product. So here we go. We'll fill this up now. Also, I'm gonna use warm water in here because it's only about 50 degrees outside and I want my hands to be warm. Not hot water, but just warm. Here we go. I almost forgot one more tip. I'm making sure that I fill up my bucket before I put in the grit guard so I don't accidentally have a mismeasurement in my bucket. So I'm putting the water in first. That's a pro tip for beginners too. That way you won't accidentally have less water in there than you think and have your dilutions be wrong. So we are at about 4 gallons of water right now. One other cool thing I like about the Detail Co products is they do have these really nice pour spouts that makes it really easy. Also, this one has kind of an interesting smell to it. It's very floral, don't know what it is. It smells pretty good. So now we got our 4 gallons of water. We just need 2 ounces of the product in here, and that's all we're gonna need for the entire wash, nothing more than that, which is pretty great. This is something I didn't talk about in the garage, but I did have my 2 ounce measuring container, cup, whatever, sitting there. This one is a 1 ounce, so we'll just do 2 of these, not a big deal. Here we go. Ooh, that's a really cool color. So we got 1 ounce and a 2nd ounce. I like that color. It matches the color of the label, which is always good, kind of fun. Okay. That's all we're going to use for the entirety of this. That includes what we're going to be putting inside of that IK sprayer as well. So we're actually done with this for now. And I'm just going to mix this around a little bit. And maybe you can see this, maybe you can't. I'm just going to point this down a little bit. This isn't overly sudsy or anything like that. That's not what we're looking for a rinseless. We just want to get it mixed really well. And that's it. It kind of reminds me of like a bubble bath, honestly. All right, now we can go ahead and put the grit guard in because we know we have it mixed correctly. So we'll go ahead and stick that in. And again, what the grit guard does for us is it's going to trap all the dirt that's going to get pulled out of that sponge to the bottom. So we have the cleaner water on top. So we only have a 1 bucket method again. We're saving water by doing this. This is a great method for Californians, people in Arizona, in the South, whatever, or if you just want to conserve water in general, or if you want to wash in your garage and not make a big mess. All right, it's time to wash the vehicle. One other thing I just want to mention really quick, a lot of garages and apartments are very dark, even if they're kind of outside. You might want some extra light. These are the Devos Light Ranger lights. I love these. This one happens to be more for contractors. This is the Devos Light Ranger 4000, so it's 4000 lumens. It's super bright, and it's gonna help me see what I'm doing in the back really well. And on the other side here, I have the Devos Light Ranger 2000. That's the one I take overlanding, camping, that kind of thing a lot. Both of them would work for that, but that one has like bug lights and things like that. So now I've got plenty of light in the garage in an area where I don't have as much light, which is pretty great. I'm not gonna use all these towels today. I really only maybe need 1 or 2. So I'm gonna start with the Diva, and then I'll finish with the Diva rinseless towels if I think I need them for more of the detailed areas on the truck, or if this one just gets too full of water. One other thing you're gonna need if you have a truck, maybe even an SUV, is some kind of a ladder, some kind of a step stool, something like that. I have this one from Werner. I like this one a lot. Obviously something like this is a little bit more expensive. It actually stores pretty small if you have an apartment, so that's not too bad, but it does give you a nice big platform to work off of. So today, we're gonna use this. And we're always gonna start at the top of the vehicle, no matter what. The other thing that's kind of cool about this specific one is, if I want, I can get taller. I've increased my reach, which is nice. And the other good option for that is something like this, which is just a nice like $20 step ladder. And I've used this for years. I can't reach quite as far and I have to move a lot more often, but this works just fine. It's only 20 bucks. So I'll link at least one of those two. But those are the things you're gonna need to do rinseless, and that's where we're at. Now you might say, hey Ben, you haven't filled up your sprayer yet. I haven't, but one of the reasons why I use 4 gallons of water is before I've gotten the water dirty, it's all clean yet, I can now dunk my sprayer in here and fill it up. And because this isn't a foam sprayer where you might want more air in it, I can keep it pretty full if I want. I don't think I'm gonna need this much, so I'm just gonna put it down to like 3/4 full. That should be plenty. And now I know I have the right mixture, 256 to 1, without having to try to do it at a smaller scale. That's a pretty good tip, and it'll save you a lot of time and effort. So this is ready to go now, as is this. So let's talk technique really quickly. We're gonna spray this on the vehicle, and because I'm inside, I have no wind, I can spray the whole vehicle right here. It can stay on there, it's not gonna dry, and I'm gonna be able to do the whole thing pretty quickly. If I were outside in the sun, or if it was really windy, I would do one panel at a time, and I would spray the panel, then I would wash the panel with a sponge, and what you're gonna do is dunk your sponge in here, get it good and ready to go. And then when you pull it out, it should just be on the verge of dripping, not more than that. I'll show you the technique more as we go along here, but the technique is generally gonna be to just make sure you've covered every space. You're not gonna go in a circle, so just making a square over a panel, making sure you get every section. You can do pretty big sweeping passes. You just wanna make sure you hit every section. Once you feel like this is getting kind of dirty, all you need to do is flip it over and just keep going. Once that's dirty, you come in and you dunk, and all you're gonna do is dunk one time, and all that dirt's gonna come out. You'll see that in a little bit, but that's how this works. And then once you're either done with the panel or the vehicle, then you'll dry. That's all you gotta do. So that is the technique, that's what we're gonna do today. You'll see how this works. But it's time to get started. And I'm gonna try to have both cameras running again so I can go between both sides and you can see what's going on. All right, so I'm ready to get started. It might have taken longer to explain all of that stuff than it will to actually wash the vehicle. So we're gonna get started here, and I do have another camera set up so you can see what I'm doing on both sides, but let's get started. So I said I'm going to go ahead and put this on the entire truck, and I'm gonna do that. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting about this sprayer is it does have an adjustable nozzle on it, and you want to adjust that based upon how windy it is, where you're trying to spray. If it's like this, where we're not worried about it, not really too worried about overspray at the moment because we're spraying the entire vehicle, the spray pattern can be pretty big. But if you're trying to just keep it to one panel and not overlap, then you're going to want to adjust that spray pattern a little bit. You can also adjust it enough to maybe rinse with this if you needed to, but you're probably going to want something different if you have to rinse. So now I'm going to apply this to the vehicle, and then we'll get washing. Here we go. Oh yeah, I forgot they have to pump this up first. All right, here we go. Remember I said I'm not doing my wheels and tires today because they're going to get really dirty tomorrow. And you can see actually how much this puts out water-wise. It's quite a bit, but I don't need a ton either. But I do want to make sure I get all the surfaces I'm going to do. And I'll get the top here from the back. Letting the product dwell on top of here is going to be really helpful too. So we want to give it some time if we can. I think I can adjust this pattern to be, there we go, a little bit bigger. The pattern was maybe a little bit too narrow. So now I can get a little bit bigger area. Apply a little more pressure in here. You can see that the pump lasts pretty long, which is good. And if you find that a section's starting to dry on you at some point, you just apply more product and you'll be fine. Again, trying to go from top to bottom, that way if we have any kind of issues with it running or anything like that, it's not gonna be a problem. So you can see it's not a lot different than when we foamed the vehicle. I'm keeping this camera here a little bit closer so you can see what'll happen up front, and I might bring one of my lights up here when we get to this section too. And again, you can see that how close I am to the vehicle and still able to do this. I'm not getting all wet or anything like that. So any vehicles that would be around me are also not getting all wet. So in an apartment or anything like that, this is definitely a viable option. And I have a good friend of mine who I sent a rinseless kit, and he washes his vehicle inside his garage, and he loves it. He used to live in a house basically and was able to wash his vehicle whenever he wanted. And when he moved to an apartment, he was kind of sad that he had to go to a car wash. So I sent him that kit, and it's worked really well for him. All right, so we're running low, and so before I wash my vehicle here, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more. I probably should just fill the whole thing all the way up. Most of the time when you're doing panel by panel, you don't use as much product as this. I wanna make sure it stays wet. So I'm just gonna fill a little bit more in here. Not a big deal. Just pump it back up again. That way, if I need to wet another section, it won't be a big problem. All right, so everything is still wet. Not too worried about that. I'm gonna go ahead and just make sure the top of the vehicle is good and covered. All right, definitely got plenty on here now. So before we get to the wash part, I'm gonna go ahead and throw on my gloves, and we'll go ahead and wash the vehicle. So that took just a couple minutes to get around the vehicle and get all the water on it. It's very similar to when you would pressure wash or like coat the vehicle in soap first. Nothing different there. If my vehicle were dirtier, I would have rinsed first. So it would have been chemical rinse, chemical agitation, and then dry in this case. But my vehicle's pretty clean. It does smell really good. On the verge of dripping, maybe you could have a little bit more water in there than that. Because you still want it to be lubricated, so it's not dripping, we're good. All right, and I'm just gonna go in a pattern that kind of guarantees that I've hit everything. One thing that's cool about Rinseless is you typically can tell everywhere you've been because it'll look different after you've been over it. And that's something you don't always get with a standard wash with soap. It's so sudsy you can't always tell where you've been. And if you feel like you need to go over a section again, you can. So if you have a lot of bugs or anything like that, you can go over a section. You're just not putting any pressure on the sponge whatsoever. You should never really need that. If you do need more pressure, or if you think you would need more pressure to clean something, you might want to use something like All Clean in those cases. All right, so starting to get a little bit dirty now. So I'm just gonna turn it over and I can keep going. All right, so it's dirty on both sides. Just gonna stick it in here, switch it around just a little bit. Wring it out. And it's clean, ready to go. So I need to move my ladder in order to get to the next section. You might say, why clean that section? Because someday I might not have this topper on there and I still want the cameras to be nice and clean. So I'm trying to take care of all that really well. If I was doing this outside, or if I were experiencing a lot of wind, I might do just a panel at a time. So after I did that first panel, that's when I would dry it. That's how that would work. So use both sides of my sponge at this point. I need to do the other side on the top and then we'll go around the vehicle. Oops. And honestly, because it's so easy to use the sponge, I don't necessarily have to drag this around with me everywhere I go and worry about the bucket. It's pretty easy to walk back. All right, nice clean sponge. Now we can do the rest of the truck and it should be really quick. No more climbing up and down ladders. And And you can tell where you've been before because on my truck specifically, you can see it's beaded up. So you can probably see that over here, and it looks different now after I've been over that section. Okay, I got a particularly dirty section there, so I'm gonna flip it over now. Now this is sometimes where I feel like Rinseless is a little bit harder because of the sponge to get into some of these crevices. I found that they're not as clean as when I have used the traditional method with the pressure washer. That's likely just technique. So just getting used to getting into all these crevices with a sponge versus doing it with a wash mitt and letting the suds kind of do a lot of the work in the water pressure. Plus these grills just get more and more complicated design-wise. They look cool, but boy, are they complicated. And gloves, the reason that I love them is they tend to keep you safer because they hold on to surfaces and you don't just slip off, which I found to be a problem otherwise. That time I probably had a little bit too much on the sponge, but if you have a really dirty spot, what you can do is kind of wring some of the extra water out of your sponge to make sure that way you're getting a little bit of extra soap and product on there, but you're not scratching anything. So that's actually one of the other techniques you can use for a dirty spot with bugs, that kind of thing. Again, no pressure even on the dirty spots. You're just gonna go over them more than once. Now that I'm on the side paint, I can get really nice big swaths at a time and things really pick up. And now I'm on some dirty spots here, so I'm definitely gonna clean the sponge after this. I would say I'm about halfway done with the wash at this point, and the dry is gonna take really almost no time at all. I like to do boxes on the windows to make sure I try to get into the corners pretty well. That's just my technique. I always feel like glass is the most important for me because I really want to be able to see out of my glass and not have any streaks. So this Rinseless is really just trying to grab a lot of that dirt right off of the paint for me, and then it's getting sucked into the sponge. Nemesis does seem to stud a little bit more than some of the other formulas I've used for Rinseless. And I would say professionals are probably even faster than this than I am. Totally understandable. I probably go way slower with Rinseless than I should. And I could probably do this much quicker than I do. But that's that. All right. Vehicle is washed. Time to dry. And we're gonna go ahead and use the Diva here. And because we do wanna kind of prime the towel a little bit and get it wet, I'm gonna try to do the windows first a little bit here. And this is where these bigger towels sometimes are a little bit more of a cumbersome kind of deal because they tend to just be a little bit unwieldy on smaller items like windows. But it's not the biggest deal in the world. Again, no pressure or anything like that. I'm just trying to get the water off. All right, so all I'm gonna do here then is throw this on the window and drag it across. Now the cool part is with these huge towels like this, I can get all the way across the vehicle and dry the whole thing pretty much all at once, which is really nice. So this is where this towel is a little bit big, and I like these little towels for some of these spots where I have to get in between things a little bit more, and they tend to work better for that. And the hood should be nice and easy as well. Again, with a heavier towel, you can get into these creases a little bit too, which is nice. You can see there's just no pressure on those pulls at all. I want to get those windows on the other side quick. I do like to try to get the trim fairly quickly too, because that'll water spot pretty quickly usually. This BenInBeta is actually a nice size to get into these crevices, which is great. And it is absorbing a lot of water. Not that there was a lot on the vehicle, but in comparison to a standard wash anyway. I don't know if you can tell for sure, but there's really no water on the ground because Rinseless just doesn't require a lot of water. All right, that's done. So that is how you do a rinseless wash as a complete beginner. Pick up those products, that's all you need. It's much less than what you would need for a traditional wash, and it does a really, really good job. Let's pull the camera off and just take a look quick. So you can definitely see that the paint is quite good and quite clean. The glass is very clean. Looking good. Remember, we had the water spots on here before, and those are mostly gone. I could have done a little better job in the corners there, but those are gone as well. And anything that's left here is on the inside of the window. Paint, again, looks great. And you can see I've got some scrapes here from trees and things like that. That's not anything that I'm gonna fix with a rinseless wash or really anything. But paint's looking great all the way around. And on the ground, you can see that there's really no water or anything like that. I got a little bit of a drip right there. And again, just no pressure whatsoever on the drying piece. This was not quite like pans, which leaves it super slick. All right, everybody, that's how you do a rinseless wash. You saw the results, looking good. Much less time than what we took with the last wash. In fact, according to the camera, this whole time was 42 minutes of once we started washing, which is pretty darn good. That's super fast. I could probably do it a little bit faster if I wasn't talking and setting all this stuff up too. But that's much quicker than the hour and a half to 2 hours it took with the pressure washer, with a lot less stuff as well. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to be able to answer those. I will show you some different types of rinseless wash in the future. I will also show you a hybrid wash where we do foam the vehicle and then do a rinseless at the end. I will also show you some other types of rinseless sprayers and some other foamers. So there's lots of different things there. And I also have a couple different ways that you can rinse your vehicle. Again, if you live in an apartment or something like that, and you need to be able to clean it, it's a little bit dirtier. So those videos are all coming on the rinseless side. I'm also gonna be teaching a friend of mine how to do a rinseless and a regular wash in this series. So please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you found this at all helpful, please hit that like button. That's super helpful too. Share this out with anybody who you either wanna get into detailing with you or might be interested in getting into detailing and they haven't yet. I almost forgot one thing. When you're done, don't forget to rinse out your sprayer really well. Even though it says rinseless in here, you still wanna rinse it out. So just run some water through it, just like we did with the foam cannon in the other video. And then these should be ready to be laundered. We haven't talked about caring for your rags and towels yet, but basically a good microfiber wash or something like the Tide Free and Gentle, that's a good laundry detergent for these. It'll actually be fine if you don't wash these immediately. I will also link to the Detail Co. microfiber wash because I really like that a lot. It actually makes your towel softer. It does a really nice job on getting everything clean too. And that will help with getting any other chemicals out of your rags if you do something like a ceramic spray at the end to kind of give a little bit of protection to your vehicle. So I'll link that in the description as well. It's a pretty good product. I've also used Rag to Riches and that's pretty good too, but I actually like the Detail Co. stuff a little bit better. And just in case you didn't think we got any dirt, you can see that the water is pretty dark. It's definitely darker towards the bottom, and that is where the dirt generally gets trapped. It's obviously a little bit dark up top too, but there's definitely dirt in there. But you can see that most of that dirt's towards the bottom because you can see in the top it's actually a little bit lighter. So we're gonna just see how much dirt we got out of this. All right, here we go. That is a good deal of dirt. So if you don't think rinseless cleans a vehicle, you'd be wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, live your life in beta, and we'll see you next time.